Good morning, near afternoon, everyone. A very merry, not so stupid clocked one and all. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we're late for a few reasons. It is the last day of my vacation, so I wanted to make sure to, clean everything up so that, the way I set up my vacation is I work tomorrow. Then there's my traditional weekend. So, I have one day to kind of get back in the groove, relax, get into my normal sleep schedule after that. You know how it goes. So I was trying to get everything done. Got a very desperately needed, I know you can't really tell much difference, that's kind of the point. A very desperately needed trim and fringe around the face. Bleh, I'm babbling. Don't worry about me, folks. So I was just trying to get all of that done before I had to get on the phones tomorrow at stupid o'clock. So, long story short, we're going back to that horrible world of the JRC. But before we get started, the usual disclaimers. You are going to find the freaking ridiculous train wreck of a report that we are going over right there in the description box, as well as the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive, the templates where you literally just sign your name and click on your senator. That way we can stop all adversive punishments and inappropriate restraint in schools. You have no idea how many folks have died. Also, please ignore my cat who is playing with I don't even know what. I don't even know how he got it. I don't ask questions. The cat is happy. I'll leave him to be happy. Anyways, also the other present, change.org, shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition. Because let's face it, folks, the only way these kids are actually going to finally be safe is to get them the hell out of here. Alright, so to where we left off yesterday, GED and restraints. Remember, folks, when we were talking about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as see clips from video surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. And if I babble off into space, my apologies in advance. So, GED and restraints. Everyone, square your shoulders. Neck roll. Let's prepare ourselves for this morning. Stupid. When a GED application occurs, the nursing department is told the condition of the student, if there were any issues with the application, and when the electrodes were rotated. Oh, for the love of Christ. So you tell them, oh, they were perfectly healthy before the shocks. And you tell them, well, it didn't work when I hit the button. For God's sake. Yeah, we did move the electrodes about a quarter of an inch to the left. Explain to me how that helps. Does that lessen the pain any? Does that mean you're not psychotic? It doesn't matter where you move the damn electrodes. You are electrocuting a student at either 15 or 45 milliamps. The police stun gun works on 4 to 5 milliamps. There's gonna be damage, especially done over long periods of time, as you all are infamous for. Fucking spare me. The nursing department also performs body checks for the GED students. I'm sure they do. You can't have any evidence going on that can be found on the body of the student of what you're doing, can ya? If any red marks are observed, the nurse will rotate the electrodes. Oh my God, for God's sake. Why? So you can put another red spot somewhere else? If any marks are observed due to buckle or lock on the device, the nurse will move the device. Yeah, because that makes it better, Jan. While any staff member can take a GED device off a student, only the nursing department can put the device back on. Again, if you are part of this nursing department and you agree with this monstrous behavior, I've only got one thing to say to you. You deserve to have your license revoked and have an international ban placed on you for ever again working in the healthcare or mental health care fields. Permanent, lifetime ban. At the very least. Belong in a jail cell. The overnight nurse must watch all GED applications on the DVR multiplex set up in the nursing office and must fill out an end-of-shift report detailing all GED applications given that night. Again, if you are sitting there observing people being tortured, you do absolutely nothing to stop it. You sit there and you watch students being restrained, helpless, being shocked over and over again, and you do nothing to intervene. You never belonged in the health or mental health fields in the first place. You belong behind bars, not in a nurse's office. A nurse must immediately check the student in restraint to assess any pain. Bullshit! You don't care if they're in pain. Really? You're checking if they're on pain. You remember the fact that Matthew Israel designed these devices to hurt. Of course they're in pain. Oh God, human rights. Let's see what they think human rights are. Jesus help me with this one. Issues identified following the 2007 incident. You wouldn't know an issue if it came up and smacked you on the ass, Judge. The human rights of the students harmed in the August 2007 incident were certainly violated by the abusive and neglectful actions of the staff persons involved. You violate the human rights of every single student in your so-called school every single day. You deprive them of food. You deprive them of sleep. You rip their autonomy away from them. You take away their personhood. You rip apart their psyche. You shock them and cause physical abuse. You violate their human rights every minute of every day. The human rights the students at the JRC are monitored by the Human Rights Committee, made up entirely of JRC staff. Yeah, those are the fuckers I want to tell me what my human rights are. Okay, Karen. Which determines policies and procedures for ensuring students can understand their rights and file complaints for violations. The fuck you do? The fuck you do? I call bullshit. That's major bullshit. Bullshit, folks. When they go into that school, they don't have any rights. Their parents have rights. Their guardians have rights. They have none. Remember what they say anytime a JRC student tries to tell them anything? No talking out. Zap. Whew, I was in a good mood. Now I'm getting... JRC and the agencies that investigated the incident did not identify the Human Rights Committee as something that directly contributed to the breakdown during the incident. Of course you didn't. You all are never at fault. Freaking monsters. Nonetheless, the Human Rights Program is a place to monitor the safety of the JRC, of the students at the JRC, and therefore is worthwhile to discuss the committee and the ability of the students to report concerns in light of other safety policies and procedures at JRC. It's bullshit. Their Human Rights Committee is put there to make JRC seem beyond and above reproach. They know what their program looks like to the general public. They may be incompetent, but they're not entirely stupid about public perception, especially after Andre McCullen's incident went viral. So they're going to tell you about these so-called committees that they have in place. They're going to tell you that the students have right to bring up their concerns. But it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. It's all bullshit. Anytime those kids bring up any type of concerns or speak about violation of their rights, the Human Rights Committee will pull out their paperwork, tell them how it's all in their plan, and they're not seeing things correctly, and that their parents agreed to it. Therefore, their concerns are noted but will not be acted on. Smoke and mirrors, folks. Don't listen to their bullshit, their lies. Changes made by JRC. Because the Human Rights Program at JRC was more removed from the breakdown in the system than the other aspects of the program, i.e. the telecommunication policies, it did not appear to be an area of concern for the agencies or administration following the incident. Why am I not surprised? See, I told you, folks. Smokes and mirrors. Smokes and mirrors. They don't care about addressing their human rights. These kids have no rights. Poor things. Tanya Chiara, the Compliance Regulations Officer, did meet the Director of Human Rights for the DDS to make sure that the JRC's restraint recording policies were up to date. Because that's going to help. No formal changes were made to the human rights programs as a result of the August 2007 incident. Surprise, surprise. You mean that they're absolutely useless? They're basically there for PR purposes only? Say it isn't so. Although there are modifications made to the program as issues present themselves and according to changes in the DSS requirements. Summary of policies and procedures. The Director of Student Services serves as the Human Rights Coordinator. You see what I mean? When you have someone who is a director at that center, the head of the Human Rights Committee, you know it's bullshit. You know it's PR. The fact that no one from the outside world is allowed on this Human Rights Committee should speak volumes. Volumes. Before I got my job with the state, I was brought in during similar human rights conversations for my regional office for my area of the state of Missouri to make sure the human rights were being respected at the group homes and day programs in my area, and to help form policies out to make things safer, better, and to give the consumers, which is what we call them out here in Missouri, we call them consumers, not clients, to be able to voice their concerns without fear of retaliation. I was the outsider. To this day, out here, they still do the same thing. They have somebody from the outside, usually members of groups like Southwest Region advocates in the P44 movement out here. They are still involved, but this place has no one from the outside as a part of their Human Rights Committee. Even ARC has it. Easter Seals has it. Nova has it. Judavine definitely has it. Yeah. Moving on. Gather information relevant to the JRC's ability to comply with regulations and promote human and civil rights of the students. Bull fucking shit. If that is what you all consider human rights, I might actually have to do a separate video on what the Massachusetts Bill of Rights usually is and just start counting down how many are violated on a daily basis at this center. Coordinate human rights officers in meeting their responsibilities and assume any other duties assigned by the Human Rights Committee. Student Human Rights Program. Oh, we got more smoke and mirrors, folks. Student case managers serve as human rights officers. Well, aren't you just using words to make something into what it's not? Student human rights, and then the first thing that comes out of their mouths, student case managers. So it's not ran by the students, folk. It's run by their case managers who work for the JRC, who serve the students' parents, caretakers, and guardians, not the students. Is anybody remotely surprised? And must participate in training programs offered or approved by DDS. Implement means to inform staff, students, and families of individual rights. Make copies of 115 CMR 5 available. Train students annually in how to exercise their human rights and assist them in exercising these rights. Oh, I'm sure they do. You mean when you rub it in their face that they have no right to autonomy? Provide students with opportunities to exercise their rights and inform them of the grievance process and the right to go to the Human Rights Committee. Yes, let's go to our abusers to let them know they're abusing us. That's sure to work. Provide legal information and referral services to students and provide assistance in obtaining legal advice. Remember when Jennifer Masumba brought up her concerns on specific incidents, and they never, ever did anything unless it was caught on tape? Yeah, so much for teaching students their human rights and acting on them, Karen. JRC has developed a computer program to teach developmentally delayed students or students who cannot read about their human rights. That tells me all I need to know. We got that assumption of incompetence, folks, right there. So, when you have someone who's torturing you telling you what your human rights are, I'm just saying that's all. All other students take a series of quizzes based on several different human rights scenarios, as well as the policies and procedures of the JRC with regards to human rights. And if they answer wrongly and call you an abuser, do you shock them? Bet you do. Students are asked to read a human rights information document signed and dated. Asked my ass. You remember what they did to Anna, right? Then students take a one-page quiz on information contained in this document. This information includes the student's human rights officer, their case manager, who works for the JRC. What happens if they tell an outside source what's going on inside that school? I would like to know. That if a student has a human rights complaint, he or she should write a business letter to his or her HRO. Remember, Masumba talked about this. You have to write a business letter. Really? Fucking really? While the abuse is going on above and beyond what is already happening, just continue to endure it and write your letter now. Alternative contacts for students if their HROs are unavailable. A list of 15 rights that students have and the contact information for the DMR, DPPC, and DSS. Students are also given information about what physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and emotional abuse are. Oh, you're going... Right. I'm going to take lessons about what abuse is from my abuser. Wow. Really? How they all can affect all children. Well, if you actually knew that, you wouldn't have a school. Students take a 3-question quiz on each topic after it has been reviewed with them. Students are given information about how and when to report abuse and what will happen when the abuse is reported. You mean retaliation? Being told they're wrong? Students are informed annually that they should report to their human rights officer, DPPC, or DSF anytime they believe that a student believes he or she has been abused or neglected, or if a reportable event has occurred. Only to be told, of course, that it's okay because it's in their behavioral sheet. The fact that a student has a loss of privilege status will not affect their ability to communicate a human rights concern. Bullshit. Students must let their teachers or residential supervisors know that they would like to speak to their case manager about a human rights issue. The teacher or residential supervisor must then attempt to contact the case manager in a timely fashion. But God forbid if they speak to their parents. If the case manager is unavailable or the grievance is against the case manager, the staff must contact the human rights coordinator. Once the inquiry into the matter is completed, the human rights officer must inform the student of the results of the investigation and what action the JRC has taken or plans to take to remedy the situation. Oh, you mean nothing? A staff is designated to serve as a student investigator. The student investigator solicits comments from students about staff and the JRC programs using 3 methods: end of week questionnaires, student ratings of staff they interact with on a daily basis on a scale of 1 to 10, and student interviews by the student investigator once a week. Again, all this information taken in by the people who are abusing them. Seriously? The direct care staff reported that it is well understood that every human rights complaint made by a student must be reported to the appropriate person. If a complaint is made during overnight hours, an overnight program supervisor reported that he would send a human rights officer to the residence immediately upon receiving the notice of the complaint. Why? You want to make them feel like they don't have to contact an outside source? The direct care staff interviewed all state that students make human rights complaints frequently during shifts, and that most of the human rights complaints made by our students are dismissed after the human rights officer speaks to the student and reviews the incident. I told you. They get ignored. They get told that it is not a human rights violation. It is in their program that their parents signed off on. So, Judge, what you're telling me is the student is allowed to be starved, allowed to have all privacy removed from them, have people watch them while they bathe, or be forcibly stripped and put on a board while other people bathe them while a man in DVR watches the whole thing, that they can be shocked, but it's all okay. And it's not at all in violation of their human rights as long as it's on the goddamn sheet. As long as it's on their program and their parents or guardian signed off on it. Yeah. The complaint is of a serious nature, e.g., student alleges that a staff member hit them. Direct care staff believe that the staff member would be either put on restriction from working with that student or would be taken off schedule pending the outcome of an investigation. Investigations can sometimes last 3 to 4 weeks, which can cause hardship to the accused staff person who cannot work or receive any pay during this time. Yeah, I'm going to feel sorry for them, Judge, sure. Okay, so let's go over this here, folks. By and large, the JRC puts together a committee like this for good PR. They want to look like they are above and beyond reproach. And why? Because their image has taken one hell of a bashing ever since 2012. So they're going to put these committees in place, and they're going to try to assure the public that the students' human rights are being protected and that the students have the right to complain when they feel like they are being abused or violated, to make us relax. What they don't tell you, folks, is that it's all smoke and mirrors. You see it right here towards the end of this little report here, that most of these accusations, what the students tell these people what's going on, they get dismissed. As soon as the case manager says, well, it's part of your program, see. It's smoke and mirrors. As George Carlin said, it's all bullshit, folks, and it's bad for you. And on those notes, I'm going to go ahead and close out for this afternoon. And we don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Happy football day to all.